Hi, this is Pete the Nerd from the Nerd Lair. That's kind of like the Bat Cave for nerds. I'm going to talk a little bit about disk drives tonight. This is a tutorial to give you an idea of the types of disk drives that are out there and help you in purchasing a new disk drive for your PC if indeed your disk drive fails. So we have basically two types of drives. We have here a desktop disk drive. This is a 160 gigabyte disk drive. It has a parallel ATA interface. You can see by all these pins here. Oop, right here is the pins. And it has a little jumper here that sets it up as master or slave. So you can tell that this is a parallel ATA desktop disk drive, 3.5 inches. Similarly, we have a laptop drive, and this is a laptop drive. Again, this is 120 gigabyte capacity. It is a parallel ATA, but in this case the parallel ATA pins here are very, very small. Okay, and this is about 9.5 millimeters high. That's the standard for height for laptop drives. This is a 2.5 inch drive. So you have desktop versus laptop drives, and these are the parallel ATA drives, or EIDE drives. Now I have here, a box just as kind of a review. This is a box for a parallel ATA drive, and you can see on the bottom here, I'm flipping it the wrong way, it says parallel ATA, PATA. That's an EIDE drive. In contrast, the drives that we have are serial ATA drives. These are the newer drives. This is a serial ATA drive for a desktop computer. It's a 3.5 inch drive. It stores 1 terabyte worth of data, and it has a different type of interface here. The serial ATA interface, it has a data interface which is very small and a power interface which is a little bit wider. So these are the serial ATA interfaces. Here, similarly, I have a 160 gigabyte laptop disk drive that is also a serial ATA interface, and this serial ATA interface here is exactly the same size as the serial ATA interface on the desktop drive. This is a 2.5 inch laptop drive, a standard height 9.5 millimeters. Now, just as a review here are parallel ATA data cables. This is an old parallel ATA data cable, and you can tell it's an old cable because you can see the wires there. They're very thick wires. So this is a low speed, very slow cable. The benefit of this cable is it's really long, kind of like the big one that got away. I have also here a newer, this is a high-speed cable, and if you look at this very carefully, you'll see that the wires are very, very narrow there. So this is a newer high-speed cable with the blue connector here plugging into the main logic board, the motherboard, and the black connector plugging into the disk drive itself through the parallel port. The old parallel ATA drives use this type of power connector. It's a D-shaped connector here. All right, it's a Molex connector, a white connector. I'm sorry, I got it out of this video here. Molex white connector, and this is a splitter cable, so it splits the power into two different type of connectors, so you can run 2 drives off of this. And your power wires are the red, black, and the yellow wires. Black's in the middle, those are the ground, and the red and the yellow are different power levels. I believe red is plus 5 volts, and the yellow ones are 12 volts. Now, in contrast, I have the serial ATA cables, and this is the data cable for serial ATA. It's a very small, thin cable, has a very small connector on the end. This has kind of an L-shaped thing in the end of the connector, so you can see that it's a very, very small connector. Parallel or serial ATA cable, very small. And this is the serial ATA power connector. It also has the same kind of power that goes into the regular disk drive. It has a red and a couple blacks and a yellow cable. Again, blacks are the ground, the red is plus 5 volts, and yellow is plus 12 volts. And you can see it's a wider connector here. It also has an L shape, and it plugs right into the serial ATA drive. And whether this is a laptop drive or a desktop drive, the serial ATA interface is exactly the same. So I've shown both of these parallel ATAs Here's a serial ATA laptop drive. All right, again, very narrow connectors there. Now, I have one of the newer drives out here, two of them. This is a brand new solid state laptop size drive, 2.5-inch drive. Now, I'm going to use this in a desktop computer, so I'm going to have to mount it differently. Again, it is a serial ATA interface. The thing about this drive is its capacity is very small, very expensive. This is a 128 megabyte capacity drive. The strategy here is to run just Windows on this drive and store no data there. So that would make the PC very fast because Windows and all of the programs come off of this drive. And then I have a terabyte drive here, this drive, serial ATA, as the data storage drive. Now that's going to be a little bit slower, but that's okay for the data. What I want is the most used parts of the computer to be the fastest, and that's where I'm going to use the solid state drive. And lastly, I have here a terabyte this is not a solid state drive, this is a terabyte drive, the laptop 2.5-inch drive. I've mounted it here to put into a computer, and this is a serial ATA drive. Unfortunately, these terabyte drives are 12.5 millimeters thick, so they're a little bit thicker than the normal serial ATA laptop drive. And I bought this to fit in the laptop, but because of its height, 12.5 millimeters, it will not fit. So if you're buying a laptop drive, don't go for a big capacity here. The maximum capacity you can have with a 9.5 millimeter height is 640 megabytes. So if you go beyond that, you're likely to get a drive that won't fit. And lastly, I have here a USB external drive. This just connects in through the USB port. This is actually a laptop drive in a case, all right, and it's 250 gigabytes, really handy. I recommend everybody have one of these and store your data from your PC on one of these external drives so that you're able to get that in the event that your PC drive fails. It's your backup. And finally, I have this little connector mechanism here. This converts all three drive types into a USB drive. So the USB in plugs in USB here, and this handles all three drives. It handles normal desktop parallel ATA with this interface. It handles the laptop parallel ATA with this interface. It's physically much smaller. And it also has the serial ATA interface right here. So I can plug all three drive types into this connector here, and it has the electronics to convert them all into a USB. So I have everything together there, and then I can plug this into any computer and I can run diagnostics on these drives. Okay, this is my little drive tutorial. Pete from the Nerd Layer signing off here. And if you have any questions, write me at dialanerd, DIALANERD @verizon.net. Okay, see ya.